Hi, I'm Sean Durham here in Berlin, and this is my channel, Berlin Sincerely. And just a little bit more about Berlin and what the vibe is like and what I feel about it. I love to think about it, therefore I'd like to share with you what I feel about Berlin. You know, at first Berlin is just like any other city when you first arrive and you walk around, and strange smells and noises, the noise and the hustle and the bustle of the city. The traffic sounds just like any other city. But then as you go along, you see that the streets are full of tempting offers. It's a very layered, varied city, and it is hard to put your finger on exactly what is Berlin. It has such a tumultuous history and such a robust attitude towards always surviving. It's a wonderful city, and it can be a hard place, it can be a great place, it can be, for some people, easy street, and for some people, it can be the toughest life they can have. For young people, it's full of clubs, and it's a mecca for music. It's a great place for art. The culture here is first class. You can always find a gallery, a museum, a place that is impromptu exhibition of some type of art, appeals to anybody's mind from any generation. It is a place for people who are older, people who are younger. The young like to dominate with music scene. The older like to take it easy and get a bit more sedate in life and stroll through the streets of Berlin, where you can often see signs and graffiti. There's always some sort of sign somewhere in the form of graffiti, or a sign posting somewhere, and walk down this street and walk this way to discover a new experience of Berlin. I always find that when I walk around the streets, and I do a lot of that, often camera in hand, that I am always tempted by a street that I seldom go down or haven't been down. And I always tend to find that the seasons change the feel and look of what the buildings and streets are like. In winter, these sort of Jugendstil, sort of naive style of buildings, they can look drab and horrible and ominous, and you just think they're all a bit too heavy. In the summertime, they look like grand, beautiful, places that only the wealthy could live in. They have a lovely facade on the front, and when the sun hits them, you can pick up typical Berlin tones of that creamy colour, sometimes slightly ochre front, with a very light touch of ornate plasterwork on the front. It makes it look very, very sort of grand in a way, and harks back to 1920s. So if you're lucky, if you're walking around, you feel the magic of the city, and you get that feeling that it holds secrets, and then it pushes you on and makes you feel like you want to explore. A visit to the hot spots of town where you can drink and dance and meet all sorts in one night become an introduction to a city that clearly offers everything for any taste to anyone. To see the malls and boulevards of Berlin that connect the present with the past, the old streets that haven't changed, and the new streets that make you gawp, clubs, bars, curious locations, and that grew organically into an open market or meeting place, or both. Even the big sights, those well-known streets like Unter den Linden, take on a deeper meaning when you know who built them and why they existed. A simple bridle path that once allowed the 16th century elector, John George of Brandenburg, to ride into the Tiergarten and go on the hunt, then developed into a major boulevard that has been shaped and formed to serve the needs of the people. Built by families of stonemasons and bricklayers and engineers and architects, all visionary in their deeds, and finished with blistered hands and, for sure, loss of life. In the 1850s, a statue of Frederick II of Prussia was erected in honour of all that he had achieved for the city and Germany. Johann Strauss III wrote the waltz Unter den Linden. What else from the master of waltz and polka? To awaken the curiosity that makes city dwelling meaningful, the magic of a city only works when its residents believe in the magic. I do think that people come here looking for some type of magic. One of the things that I've experienced about living in Berlin for many years is that as you go along, for good or bad, you will build strong, powerful memories all through your experience of becoming engaged with the city. A city is useless without its people. The people make the city. So those experiences, they're all about getting out there, meeting people, and having meaningful experiences amongst other people. You tend to find that this builds up a memory in your mind that's a little bit like a map that you didn't intend to build. As the years pass, it's very difficult to forget that. The creative forces of a city only come into play when community exists and they work together, or create friction. When the friend you're visiting in Berlin takes you by the hand and leads you through these city streets, you are being led into a labyrinth that only a resident knows. Places of the heart have magic, something human, soul imprints that were left there by the magic of human life. At Pariserplatz in front of Brandenburg Gate, and slightly left when looking from the west, stands the grand hotel known as the Adlon, full of the type of history that creates legends. Cold War spies used this hotel as a meeting place occasionally, but preferred the lesser-known cafe, Adler, tucked into a side street in Friedrichstraße. Nazi officers enjoyed nights of booze and debauch within the walls of the Adlon during the war years. Berlin is famous for its decadent 20s, clubs where everything goes. People threw their inhibitions to the floor and let not only their hair down, but also shirts and blouses and trousers, threw their clothes away, and all the rest could easily be cast to the bench on a wild night out. It would cause a cheer or two, but no offence. 1920s Berlin is legendary. During the 1920s, a famous actress had the habit of visiting the Hotel Adlon, and when she arrived, it was always with style. Fur coat wrapped around her, cigarette in a long black holder perched on her hand, and she would stroll through the main entrance and head for the bar. Close by, the evening guests sat at tables, but at the sight of this infamous lady of Berlin, an actress, they would stop their conversations and wait for her to complete her act. The waiter and the concierge knew her well, and they knew about her antics, and they would also wait until the correct moment came for them to take action and end her short visit. A saucer glass of champagne, a wink and a nod at a few of the guests, and she would ensure that all eyes were on her. She drained her champagne glass in one gulp, and her long fur coat would slip to the floor and crumple at her heeled feet. With a well-practiced stage turn, she would face the onlookers as their darting and gleeful eyes took in the sight of a perfectly formed body, naked but for the shoes of an expensive fur coat that lay at her feet. The concierge would then pick up her coat and place it across her shoulders, escort her politely to the main doors and send her on her way. With no word of reprimand or "don't come back," she would always return and thrill guests with this example of Berlin decadence. That was typical for the 20s, and nobody was shocked. They were more thrilled by all of these antics from all types of people in various clubs and bars. People could do anything they like, and it was just seen as being wild. All combined together, all the signs and graffiti spread through the city are like messages that are left as marks and dashes across bricks and mortar, are like the signs of passing souls. Their forces vibrate with the feeling of something important rising. You connect, you don't know how, but something happens on those walks. And your guide, your friend, you took onto those streets past the twisted trees with boots hanging from their branches and the garden walls where stone ornaments of small birds converse with the figures of small people, clay formed into symbols that you read, but you cannot speak out loud. This is Berlin. A mystery forms and you are hooked. You must begin to unravel the thoughts that pile up inside you. Berlin is getting inside, but you can't, not yet. It's too much to understand in one day. A lifetime in Berlin makes you realize that it's a very complicated city. The magic city is seeping into your soul and you are responding by delving into its streets and its people. Your guide and friend takes you further along the path. You see more and begin to understand how to look past the lines of noisy steel and the soulless cries of maskless complainers. You feel the connections that a city creates between residents. To be a Berliner must be a good thing. To speak those words, Ich bin Berliner, is earned, then said with truth. The truth is in the living and the searching and the understanding of all those marks and signs and symbols and all the graffiti on the walls that each resident leaves behind for others to interpret as another part of the magic between people. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. My name's Sean Durham. Enjoy. Give us a thumbs up and subscribe if you wish. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.